What's happening? How's everybody doing this evening? My name is Lever KT. A lot of people just call me KT. And clearly you all are here to learn how to make a podcast in 2023. I think a lot of people assume it's more difficult than it really is. I think also a lot of people assume that it's more costly than it really is. Granted, yes, as you grow within your podcast, as you start getting sponsorships, and those sponsorships are able to pay for you to upgrade your equipment, absolutely, I think you should definitely do it. My podcast setup is a little bit more expensive because I do a lot of different things. I create content on YouTube. I used to make music once upon a time, so that's why my setup is so expensive. But sit back, relax, grab your favorite snack. I want to show you how easy it is to make a podcast in 2023, and also I'm going to show you that it's not as expensive as you think it is. It's not as difficult as you think it is, and also I'm going to show you how you can take these steps to not only just make a podcast, but make one that is professional, make one that sounds the way you want it to sound, and to get it into the hands of the people it needs to get into. So first of all, how do we get a podcast started? So before we even think about publishing a podcast, we need to think about what's the name of our podcast. That's the first question I want to ask you. I'll give you a little time to answer that. Secondly, what is the logo of my podcast? How should it look? There's sites like Canva that are free for you to edit. Adobe has some pretty cool products. I use Canva. I use the paid version of Canva. It's roughly $10.99 a month, but it allows me to do everything that I need to do. So those are the first two things. What's the name of my podcast? How does my podcast look? The third thing is the most important thing when we're talking about the introduction to podcasting. What is your niche? Your niche. Who's your target audience? What do they look like? What do they sound like? Why are they listening to your podcast? What separates your podcast from other podcasts? It's easy to just start a podcast, just start talking, and you have no format. You have no rhyme or reason for doing it. You're just starting a podcast to start a podcast. Well, what's your niche? So my podcast, and the most successful podcast that I've been a part of, is called CFB Nation. It's a college football-based podcast. What is my niche? Well, people who like to watch college football. Well, there's a lot of different college football podcasts out there. Well, how do you separate yourself? Well, me and my co-host Nino don't believe in shock jocking. We just believe in giving our takes. Our takes are our takes. We're not doing it just to be, shock jock so people can have an opinion about it. We are true college football purists. That is my niche. That's what I like talking about. I do a video podcast, and in this episode, we're just talking purely about audio podcasting. And by the way, this will be a series. So yes, I will touch on some of the things that you need in order to start a podcast. But as we get into this series, we're going to deep dive into some of these things. So for instance, equipment needed can end up being a 20-minute video. But this video, I want it short, sweet, to the point, how to start a podcast. So those are some of the things you need to think about. What is the name of my podcast? What does my podcast look like? I need a logo for it. 500 by 500 is the dimensions for the logo you need. And then you need to think about your niche. Those are the most important things. And that way you're able to format your podcast. How long should it be? You have to think about it like this. The attention span of people now versus 10, 15 years ago is different. Long form format is the way everybody wanted things. But now it's like, if you can't grasp my attention 60 seconds or less, is this worth listening to? So once you format it, hey, well, I'm going to do an hour podcast, and I'm going to release that hour podcast once weekly. Or I'm going to do a 30-minute podcast, and I'm going to release it a couple times a week. So those are just some of the early things you want to think about when making a podcast. So that leads us to our next segment, equipment needed. By heart, by nature, I'm a techie guy. My concentration in school was media production, so I can sit here and talk about this stuff all day. But here are the key necessities that you need to make a podcast. And the first thing I mentioned is the thing that a lot of people don't even think about: acoustics. Where are you recording this? Sound travels, sound bounces. So you need to make sure wherever you're recording that there's a quiet place and that your audio isn't bouncing. Let's talk about the different type of mics you can get. You can get a USB mic. USB mics are simple. Plug and play. Get you a Yeti, something like that. Plug it right up into your PC or your laptop. Boom, start recording. It's that simple. You can also get what's called an XLR mic, and there's all types of different microphones. Like the one that I have is a Shure SM7B. This is the mic everybody knows that Michael Jackson used to record Thriller, but this is kind of the industry standard in podcasting. Granted, this mic costs you $3.99, and it's not a plug-and-play mic. You're going to also have to use a mixer or a USB mixer that can plug into your computer in order to record with it. So that is how my PC recognizes this mic, is through XLR into my mixer. And the mixer I have is a Yamaha mixer. I believe it was $199. Don't quote me on that. I'm sorry. I don't remember the price. That Yamaha mixer is USB, so it plugs into my computer, and that's how I'm able to record. So like I said, it's just a few schools of thoughts when you're thinking about it. You can get high quality sound with the USB mic. Don't believe that you can't, but the important thing is to remember that, one, you get what you pay for. Tell some of the truth. It doesn't tell the entire truth. And two, your acoustics matter more. So I have a green screen behind me, but behind that green screen, I have studio phone. I have decent quality studio phone, nothing crazy, but between the studio phone I have behind me, between my monitors in front of me, between the fact that I have a pretty decent mic, my sound isn't traveling very often. And matter of fact, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. My old lady and my dog are literally right there. They're chilling. They're watching Aladdin. You can't hear the movie, but that's what they're doing. My dog is probably going to make a sound while I'm recording this. You're not going to hear it. So that's kind of where it tells a half-truth. You get what you pay for, but you can still get a really good sound with a USB mic. Don't be confused. They're ranging in prices. You can find one on Amazon for as cheap as, $20-25. But if you're starting out, you pretty sure you want to go with a USB mic. Get you a condenser USB mic somewhere in the price range of $50 to $100, $120. That'll get you started. You'll definitely be able to do that. But please remember that the acoustics is important. I know inflation is bad now, so a lot of people don't have, big homes and just empty rooms and things of that nature. But if you got a walk-in closet, and that walk-in closet has plenty of clothes in it, and you got a place that you can sit a little desk with your laptop and your USB mic, and you got a nice little mic stand for it, and you're able to do what you need to do, that's the perfect place. The sound's not going to bounce because of the clothes. I mean, you could even go hustle on Flow Style, get your old mattress, put it up in there, whatever you need to do. Just make sure that the acoustics are right. So let's get into the next segment. The next segment is recording and editing. There's a few things you can do. Audacity is kind of the industry standard. I literally have Audacity on my computer now. When I did audio podcasts before, now I do video podcasts. Video podcasts are the future. It's the next wave. Shout out to my guy Moon Vibes. He's the one who hit me to video podcasts. So Audacity is easy to download. It's free to download. You can use it, edit it. It has some functionality into it as far as mixing. So you can get your EQs, you can get your compressions, you can normalize your vocals. I know all of that sounds crazy, but trust me, I'm going to do an entire episode on audio editing. I got you. Just follow this series. So Audacity, if I'm entry level, I'm not trying to spend a whole bunch of money with this. I have the name of the show. I have the logo. I have the niche. I have my target audience. I have the acoustics. I just need me a mic. And my laptop will probably get the job done. Download Audacity. There's other audio, audio softwares you can download as well. Mixer is one of them. Adobe Audition, they got a monthly cost. Pro Tools is high end. Logic is high end. That's Pro Tools on the screen now. And I guess the difference between Pro Tools and Audacity, when you put an effect like a compressor or EQ over your vocals, it changes the wave. Well, through sends and inserts in Pro Tools, you can put a compression or EQ over your vocal, and it won't adjust the wave. It'll just, through that insert, through that send, it will make your audio sound crispy. So starting out, go ahead and get your Audacity. Like I said, I still have Audacity on my computer now. There was once upon a time more people in our company, and when they did their audio podcast, a lot of times they'll send them to Moon, a lot of times they'll send them to me. I'll edit it real quick using Audacity, and then I'll send it to what's called mastering. And it's one key component to remember before when you finish mixing. You got the sounds you want out of it. You got the the ahs out of it. The dead spaces, you edited it. You got your compression sounding good. Your EQ is hitting that where you want to hit at. It's good. Then make sure, in order to set it up for mastering, the final stage in mixing is that you need to have it in between 6 dB and 12 dB. That way, whenever the mastering is done, it's enough headspace for the mastering. And speaking of mastering, there's a couple of places you can go to for mastering, and you don't even have to use a person. LANDR is something that I used for a while, and none of these products are sponsoring a video. This is me being honest with you guys about the products that I use. It can be a little bit pricey, but it gives you some basic functionality. You'll get your sound at the levels of the professionals. If you do a quality job in mixing, your master is going to come out beautiful. And it's gonna be at the same level as the Joe Rogans and stuff like that of the world. But keep in mind they're using high-end equipment. But you can get your sound somewhere in the ballpark with proper mixing. A bad mix equals a bad master. You can't have a bad mix and a fantastic master. The mix has to be equally as good for the master to be good. So always remember that. eMastered is another place you can go to and get your audio mastered. After a while, there's this thought in music that you don't get the same person who mixed your audio to master your audio just because you want to hear a different person hearing it. I don't think with podcasting it's that difficult. If you feel like you're good enough to master your audio for podcasts to master it, also you can go on places like Fiverr to be able to find somebody to do it for you. But a lot of times, just go through eMastered or LANDR, get it done through there, boom, put it out, or figure out a way to do it yourself, because the goal here is to save money and put out a good product. Those two go hand in hand. So next, let's talk about publishing. So you came up with a name of your podcast. You got your logo. You got your niche. You done got the equipment. You got your first episode recorded. You got your first episode mixed. You got your first episode mastered, and you ready for the world to hear it. Well, there's a couple of schools of thought when we're thinking about getting this podcast into the people's hands, and you do that via publishing. So the first one I'll tell you about is Captivate. I use Captivate for a long time, and I can tell you that when it comes to analytics, I'm an analytical person. Captivate is the cream of the crop. You do have to pay a little bit more. I believe the monthly cost from when I had it was $19.99 a month. You can publish it through Apple for the Apple podcast. You can publish it through Spotify, Amazon Music, Google, Goodpods, Podvines. There's so many places you can publish your music just uploading your recording on Captivate. I also believe you can record on Captivate. Don't hold me to that, but there's the prices right there on the screen right now. So Captivate is the first option. Another option is Riverside, but the only thing with Riverside is you can record in Riverside. Riverside is phenomenal. If you have like a guest featured on your show, or you want like a video podcast and you want to upload like a video to show what you're talking about, just kind of similar to what I have here. I have video showing while I'm recording. I'm not doing that via Captivate. I'm doing it via OBS. And actually, believe it or not, from OBS to the next thing I'm going to talk about is how I get my video podcast out. But anyway, back to the point. Riverside is also a useful tool as far as, recording your own episodes locally. If you want to stream your podcast live, Riverside is a way to do that. A bit on the pricier side, but it's worth it. You can actually get your videos in 4K to Captivate, but you will still need something like a Anchor, or you need Anchor to publish that through Riverside. So finally, Anchor is what I use now. I think Anchor is the cream of the crop. It doesn't cost any money. You literally sign up. You can create your episodes in Anchor. You can record in Anchor. You can create a trailer in Anchor. Your sponsorships you can get through Anchor. It's a one-stop shop. I do have a sponsorship for Anchor through CFB Nation, my podcast, but they're not sponsoring this video here, so I don't want you to think that, he's just talking them up just because he's sponsored by them. No, that's not. I truly love Anchor. I use it a lot. Like I said, that's how I get my video podcast out. So with Anchor, it's free. It's signed up. It's actually backed by Spotify, so you can get your podcast uploaded to Anchor. Spotify's on there after it finishes processing in 10 minutes. But not only is it on Spotify, it is also on Anchor, because Anchor has their own hosting for podcasts as well. So those are the key things. Captivate, if you like Captivate, you like what you heard about Captivate, go through Captivate. Riverside is pretty cool. You can use Riverside with Anchor. So you're just paying the one price for Riverside. Still getting the free publishing through Anchor. And like I said, we'll have an episode just on publishing. Like I said, we'll have just an episode on equipment, just an episode on audio editing. I'm just trying to get you to getting your podcast out in 2023. Lastly, you got your name on your show. You got your logo. You got your niche. You got the equipment you needed. You got your recording done. Recording sounds good. You got your mixer. Your mixer sounds good. You send it to mastering. They come back from mastering. It sound beautiful. You got it published. A lot of people's issue with their podcast, they stop here. They think, oh, I done got it published. I got a podcast out. You telling the homies or you telling your friends, hey, man, my podcast out. Check it out. The most important step is marketing. You got to be able to market your podcast. Well, Casey, how do we do that? It's a couple of ways to do it. Social media is a good way to do it. I don't know how you guys are personally. I know for me, I have a Facebook. I don't use it as much, but I have a lot of my close friends, family, and relatives on it. So idealistically, you would think, okay, well, yes, use that as your new social media. That's not how I wanted to do it. I didn't want my family and friends feeling like, oh, they have to do this, they have to do that, because your biggest supporters are actually going to be people who aren't family or friends, believe it or not. It's just what I've experienced since I've been doing this. So, Twitter, I think, is the number one medium for social media. I truly think it is. I think it is because once you find other podcasters in your niche, there's a beautiful community if you can find it. I know a lot of people, know Twitter for trolling, all that jazz. Of course, it happens. But in the college football community, Twitter have embraced me. I've met a lot of people. I've been able to get a lot of guests on my shows. So for my money, if I'm just starting a podcast, I'm getting on Twitter. I'm following a few people in my niche. I'm showing love to those people in my niche. You build real connections. Try to build a community. Let people know. You don't got to, make it all about you in the beginning, but let people know you have a podcast. And then those important episodes, like I did my first live episode of CFB Nation, that's when I tell the family. That's when I tell the friends. That's when I tell everybody. But my idea on marketing may not be the same. Maybe not saying my family is bad or anything like that. It's the total opposite of what I'm saying. But maybe you have that support system that no matter what you do, people are going to support. Well, then, start with your Facebook, start with your Instagram, whatever. But I think if you truly want to market, get on Twitter, find people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, build a community, get on, their shows, they get on your shows, and I'm telling you, you'll just watch yourself grow. For over the last couple of months, I've never been big on social media. I've always naturally been like a person to myself, and it's not good in this business, but it's just who I am. But I've been experiencing, every month I'm getting 100 new followers on Twitter. Yeah, that might not be a lot to you, might not be a lot to somebody else, but to me that's a lot to grow. And it's the people who want to see my content, whether it's other content creators, whether it's fans who like what I do. You have to market, but just make sure when you market smart. You don't spend on unnecessary money, and you build it from the ground up. Like, don't try to go through some of these fake sites and get fake followers and all of that stuff. It's not about that. Build a real community, really market it. Yes, it's going to get tiring. I have a full-time job outside of this, and there's days I get 3.5 hours of sleep, but I got to get CFB Nation out every Monday, every Tuesday. I got to get it out on YouTube. I got to get it out on Spotify and all the other podcasting and hosting sites. Those are the key things to remember. Also, I mentioned Good Pods. Good Pods, they're good people. There's a community of podcasters and listeners. You can get in there. You can create groups. Good Pods actually follow me on Twitter. They pretty much follow all of the creators on Twitter that create. And if you, talk up their platform, they will retweet. They will get you new followers, things of that nature. So make sure you guys, when you start your podcast, you get it published. Make sure you publish it to Good Pods and Podvine. So that is how you start a podcast in 2023. This is a series. So just take this video, take the key information that you need out of it, and start your podcast in 2023. These are all just entry-level steps. I'm going to break it down even further, as I said, all over this video. So finally, thank you all for tuning into this video. I had a lot of fun doing this. I think that I love helping people. I've never been a gatekeeper, so if I have information, I would definitely let you know the information. So don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. You comment, I'm gonna comment back. The moment I see it, I will comment on it. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Levert_KT. Like I say, I do college football content, so at the end card, the end screen, you'll see some of what I do with my podcast. It'll be popping up a little bit here, there, and everywhere, like it always does. But like I always like to say, do something nice for somebody you normally wouldn't do. Always pay it forward. Peace and love, peace and blessings, and until next time, one.